minutes here. Are there any questions or comments while we're giving a couple minutes for everybody to rejoin? Okay, people are trickling in.
I have a question. So I usually, if I get a pack of meat that's more than I can eat at one meal, wash it off real good, let it drain a little bit, and separate it and put it in separate packages and put it in the freezer. Is that a good idea or not?
Well, yes and no. I'll talk a little bit about our recommendation for washing meat. Basically, we do not recommend that you wash meat. I know that traditionally, a lot of people have washed their meats off, but what research has shown is that when we're rinsing our meats in the sink, we are splashing bacteria around to other parts of our kitchen. So if that meat were to have, say, salmonella or something on it, just the action of the washing and the splattering water, you could be getting that salmonella on your sink or your countertops or, you know, all over your kitchen, and then spreading it to your other foods unknowingly. So the recommendation is not to be washing your meats. They really are sanitized fairly well. I mean, our meats are inspected. We have, you know, regulations in place for inspecting meat, so they're not going to be dirty or, you know, having anything that we need to wash off ourselves. As long as we're cooking our meats to proper temperatures, that should take care of, you know, anything that's on the meat that we would need to worry about. So washing the meats is not recommended. The freezing part, however, that is good. Buying in bulk is a great way to save money. And separating those pieces of meat out, putting them in separate, like Ziploc bags or wrapping in plastic and freezing separately, that's a great idea. And once they're in the freezer, they're going to be good in the freezer for several months, and they're going to retain their quality. So that's a great way to preserve buying, you know, a big package of meat in bulk and just using it as you need it.
I'm sorry, I got cut off. I missed the question.
Oh, sure. The question was about washing meats and then freezing them, like buying a big package and washing them and then freezing them. So washing your meats is not recommended because we don't want to be splashing any possible bacteria around the kitchen. But the freezing of, you know, breaking down a big package into smaller pieces and freezing that, that's definitely a good idea, and we'll preserve it very nicely in the freezer for several months.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about sanitizing. We talked about our separate cutting boards. We have a recipe here, just very basic recipe for a sanitizing solution that you can make very inexpensively, and this is bacteria that might be present on your kitchen surfaces. You can use this for your washed dishes even. What you can do is take Clorox bleach. We do recommend the name brand Clorox bleach. The reason for that is we know the concentration of the chemical in Clorox. They list it right on their label, and it's a reliable product. So plain Clorox bleach, no fragrances, and just take 1 teaspoon of that. So just 1 little teaspoon here, and add that to 4 cups of water in a spray bottle. Now this is just an empty, clean spray bottle that I picked up at Walmart, and you can get these anywhere. Grocery stores, dollar store has them. 4 cups of water, 1 teaspoon of Clorox, and you just mix that up and make a spray solution. You can use this to spray down your cutting boards, your countertops, any kitchen surfaces you think might have bacteria on it. And the concentration of bleach in this recipe is low enough that it is a food contact safe concentration. It is okay for you to let this dry on your surfaces, and you don't have to rinse it off. It's a low enough concentration that it's going to kill the bacteria, at the same time being safe for food contact. So that.
What about Lysol?
Sorry?
What about Lysol? The concentrated Lysol.
Sure. If you're going to use prepackaged cleaners like that, there's a couple of things you have to keep in mind. First of all, read the package directions, because they have different times that they have to sit to kill germs. And a Lysol kitchen cleaner or something like that, you want to make sure that you let it sit wet on the surface long enough for it to kill the germs. And then you also want to find out if you were supposed to be rinsing that before it's a food contact safe type of a surface. Some of these chemicals are food contact safe, some are not. So we just have to be careful of that. You don't want to be putting chemicals onto your food surfaces that shouldn't be there. One thing with this that we make up with our Clorox is it's not only food contact safe, but it kills basically all bacteria that we need to worry about, and even viruses, in 1 to 2 minutes. When you spray that surface down and it sits wet for 1 to 2 minutes, you can be assured that that is killing all the germs. So really effective, really inexpensive cleaner. You can make yourself. Make it up fresh every couple of days. Bleach does lose its activity after a couple of days, so every few days, if you start to notice the bleach smell is decreasing, just make it up fresh. It's cheap enough that you can do this every few days very easily. And again, that was 1 teaspoon of Clorox to 4 cups of water. And now you will see other concentrations of Clorox sprays, maybe on the internet, you'll see people using different amounts of Clorox. Just keep in mind that those might be for a different purpose. That might be for cleaning a bathroom or for, some other specific, use. This is specifically for food contact surfaces. So that's why we just do 1 teaspoon of Clorox to 4 cups of water. Are there any questions on that? Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about refrigeration. We mentioned briefly already about getting our leftovers and our cooked foods into refrigeration within about 2 hours. Something else that we want to make sure is any cut fruits and vegetables stay at refrigeration temperatures. If we have those out on a counter, it's a good idea to maybe put some ice under those, or ice water, somehow to keep them chilled, because those cut fruits and vegetables could be growing bacteria on surfaces. So keeping those cold is really important. If you have leftovers that are in very large containers, like maybe you make a big pot of something like chili or soup or something like that, a good idea is to break that down into smaller and shallower containers, and that way it's going to chill faster than if you put a whole big deep container into the refrigerator. So just breaking that down into smaller containers is good. Also, if you really want to chill that quickly, if it's very hot, you can also set that container or set those smaller ones into like an ice bath as well, just into a tray or something with some ice water if you really chill that quickly. So our refrigerators have a temperature that a safe temperature to keep them. Does anybody happen to know what the safe temperature is for refrigerators? Sometimes our refrigerators have a thermometer like on the outside, and sometimes it's on the inside. There's a dial or something like that, but a lot of times it's not there. We don't really know what our refrigerators are at. The answer to that question is our refrigerators should be kept at 40 degrees or lower. That's 40 degrees Fahrenheit or lower. So somewhere between 35 and 40 is the ideal range. The way you can find that temperature yourself is you could pick up a thermometer like this. This is a refrigerator thermometer, and it shows you very easily. It's nice big numbers on it, so it shows you what your refrigerator is at as far as temperature. If your refrigerator temperature creeps up over 40, we call that getting into the danger zone. Over 40 is where bacteria start to grow at a faster rate, where they could start to grow and cause food poisoning, to be able to grow into the food. And, you know, then if you were to eat it, you could get food poisoning from it. So above 40 is not safe. You want to make sure your refrigerators are 40 or below. So using that thermometer is really helpful. The freezers, our freezers should be at about 0. And freezers are going to keep our foods safe indefinitely, because once food is frozen solid, bacterial activity is basically halted. They're going to stay safe for a long time. The freezer foods, things that are frozen, like our meats and our frozen vegetables and things, the reason that there's limits on how long we should keep them in the freezer is really more of a quality issue. If you've got a bag of frozen vegetables or a package of chicken and you keep it in the freezer, you know, more than a few months, you might start to notice that the taste or the quality of it or the texture of it is kind of deteriorating, and you might not want to eat it. It might just not be that appealing. However, it is still safe as far as bacteria. Those bacteria are going to be stopped in that frozen food. So try to use those frozen things within, we say like 3 to 6 months is a good general time span for using your frozen foods. Once you pull things out of the freezer, you want to be thawing them in the refrigerator, especially your meats. You don't want to be thawing at room temperature on a countertop or a tabletop, because the surface of that meat is going to come to room temperature quicker than the center of that piece of meat. And while that surface is at room temperature, those bacteria are going to start to grow on the surface of that meat. So the best way to thaw something safely is to put it in the refrigerator to thaw it. And this takes a little planning. You probably want to plan a good day or two ahead of when you want to use it, but this is the safest way to be thawing. Another way you could thaw something would be in the microwave. When you thaw something in the microwave, it does start to cook the food a little bit. So plan on just cooking that right away. It's going to be, microwaves kind of cook unevenly, so you'll have some warm spots and some still frozen spots most likely, but a microwave can be a really good, effective way to thaw something quickly. Another way would be to putting it in the sink and just running cool water over it. Make sure you're not using hot water. You want to still be keeping those temperatures low, but just running cool water over something in the sink would be another way to thaw something out. Probably not as preferable as the other two methods, the refrigerator or the microwave, but you could do that too. Do we have any questions or comments on refrigerator and freezer foods or thawing things? Anybody have any comments?
I wanted to ask about the Fahrenheit and the centigrade temperatures. One is 0 and one is 32. Which is when? Which is what?
So, sure.
I think Fahrenheit is 32.
For your freezer, yes. The 32, boy, that's a good question. I gotta think about this. So on this thermometer, I've got Fahrenheit and Celsius both. 32 is right here. That's the freezer temperature in Fahrenheit. So your anything that is in, if your refrigerator, for example, was to get below 32, your foods are going to freeze. They freeze at 32. 0, when I say 0 for your freezer, that is also a Fahrenheit temperature. It's way below 32. It's at like a deep freeze type temperature. So your food is frozen solid. It's a good, they've just found that that's a good temperature to store long-term, store your foods in the freezer. As far as centigrade, which I'm not as familiar with, but I'm looking at my thermometer here, it looks like 0 degrees Fahrenheit, like I just mentioned, is about the same as minus 18 or so centigrade. So just kind of going up and down on this line here. The 0 Fahrenheit on top is about real close to -18, -20 centigrade. Typically, our refrigerators are going to have a readout thermometer that's going to be in Fahrenheit. But good question. I should specify that when I'm saying those numbers. Are there any other questions? Okay, a little, oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, the question backtracked a bit to cleaning fruits and vegetables, and they wanted to know about lemons, lemon juice, that sort of thing.
Oh, lemon juice for cleaning fruits and vegetables. Well, lemon juice is an acid, and it would probably be similar to using like the vinegar, like I talked about, like a diluted vinegar to clean your fruits and veggies. It's not going to kill bacteria, but it's going to be probably pretty effective at like removing dirt or grease or oils or that waxy coating. So that would probably be a food safe way to clean your fruits and veggies.
Okay.
Thank you, good question. Okay, a little more about the refrigerator. The interior of your refrigerator, meaning the shelves and the bins, are going to remain colder than the door. So be careful what you put in those pockets in the door. That temperature there in the door fluctuates a little more, and we just want to make sure that anything that's more perishable is kept more on the interior of the refrigerator, especially in an older refrigerator where the temperatures might not be holding so steady. So just keep that in mind. It's going to be colder and more consistent on the interior part of your fridge. A good way to, thinking about food safety, a good way to put your foods in the refrigerator is to put your meats on the bottommost shelf. And that again is just for, in case it drips, you don't want your meats being on the top shelf and possibly dripping down onto your fruits and veggies or things, you know, that might be below them. And it's also a good idea to put meats, especially if you're thawing them, into like just another tray or a pan or something to catch any meat juices that might come out as they're thawing. So one another thing that I want to say is we've covered a lot of different you know, ways to prevent foodborne illness things. If you're not sure that something is safe, what we always say is when in doubt, throw it out. So be really, really careful with your food safety in your kitchen. If you think that something, like if your refrigerator was left open overnight, or if something has sat out on your counter for too long and it's been over 2 hours and you're just not sure how long it's been, when in doubt, throw it out. We want you to err on the side of caution, especially if you or a family member is one of those higher risk groups like we talked about. You know, elderly or very young or somehow immune compromised. Just, you know, keep in mind that food poisoning is very real. It happens very often. 1 in 6 of us are going to get food poisoning every year. And just keeping in mind to be really careful, really mindful of your safety practices, and when in doubt, throw it out. Does anybody have any questions on anything that I covered today?
In the refrigerator, most of the refrigerators have that egg thing on the door and the way that they made them, but we really shouldn't be storing our eggs there, should we?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, they put a lot of pockets in the door for dairy products and eggs and things like that. If it's an older refrigerator, if the door isn't sealing, you know, nice and tight, if you've got any doubt that maybe that temperature is fluctuating in that door area, it would be safest to keep your foods more on the interior of the fridge. Yeah, yeah. Are there any other questions? Things can generally be kept in your refrigerator. As an average rule, we say about 3 to 5 days for most items. The exception there being raw meats. 1 to 2 days for your raw meat should be about the max you keep things in the refrigerator. After that time period, bacteria can start to multiply. So also be watching package dates really closely. If you've got something like a bag of salad greens and it has a date on it, please follow the date and don't use it past that date. After those dates, things have the risk of having bacteria growing on them to a point where it could make us sick. So please be watching those dates.
I have a question.
Sure.
So when I am shopping for like broccoli, sometimes the crown of the broccoli seem to be real dark. You know, I call them the little beady stuff on the top of the broccoli. Those seem like sometimes there's dark spots around there. What is that?
Dark spots. I'm wondering if it maybe got frozen, or if it's maybe starting to go bad. It's hard to say not seeing it, but I guess dark spots on a vegetable, to me it sounds like it's going soft for some reason. So maybe it's starting to kind of deteriorate or break down a little bit, like it's old, or maybe it got frozen. So, you know, I guess just going back to what we said about picking out your best fruits and veggies, make sure that they look and smell really good. You know, don't get anything that is questionable.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. You're welcome.
Okay. I have one question.
Mhm.
What does it mean when it says sell by date, or when we're supposed to throw away something on, I don't know,
Sure.
whatever?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of different dates on foods. They can be very confusing. There's sell by, which is the date the store has to sell that food item by. So when we buy something and it says sell by, you know, say the 10th, when we bring that home, we want to use that food item up. If it's a raw meat, we want to use that within about 1 to 2 days. If it's another type of product, we want to use that within our general rule of thumb is 3 to 5 days. If there is a date that says expires, that's a more hard and fast date where we should throw something out when it's past the expiration date. We're also going to see something sometimes that says best by or best quality by this date. That generally means that the food is going to be the freshest and best tasting by that date. And I would say after that best by date, you just want to use it up probably within that 3 to 5 day time frame as well. So generally it's a 3 to 5 day rule of thumb for most foods, except those raw meats, which we say 1 to 2 days is the safest time period.
If you have, like you have raw meat, and it does say it's expiring in a day or two, if you freeze it and put it away, it's still good, isn't it?
It is. That's a great question. Yes. When you bring raw meat home and freeze it, you're stopping that bacterial activity, and it's going to stay fresh and safe indefinitely in your freezer. When you thaw that meat, the clock starts ticking again as if it was fresh. And when you thaw it, you have that 1 to 2 days again to use that product. Any other questions, comments, experiences? Well, I sure appreciate you all being on here today. If you have any other questions, let me know. And there will be a handout coming to you by email or coming to the supervisors or however you signed up. We'll be emailing that handout. It covers, you know, basically what we talked about today. It's called Fight Back Like a Produce Pro. This is it, but you'll get it in color. And it goes over checking your produce, rinsing everything properly, chilling, cleaning, keeping things separate, and throwing away. So hopefully that will be helpful.
Okay, are you gonna have a gardening class again?
Another garden. Well, let's see. We did that one last week. I will be offering it through different sites throughout the summer. So speak to the person, however you signed up for this one, speak to the person that was the supervisor or the site director for that, and we can communicate about getting a gardening class again. Yeah, I'd be happy to do that again.
On that note, next week, if you join us next Wednesday, the 24th at 10, it is a presentation called Do Well, Be Well with Hypertension. And you learn how following the DASH diet can help control your blood pressure. And I will triple check all of the links and any documents I send out so that that one should work correctly.
I'll be looking forward to that. I would love to stop taking blood pressure medication. But right now I'm doing good. I'm under control. I've just been taking this medication for some years, and I would love to get off of it.
Wonderful. And I posted the Fight Back PDF in the chat again. So if anyone sees it in chat, you can click there and access it right away.
Great. Thank you, Susan. Great. Okay. Well, I guess it's time to go. Unless there's any last questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we'll sign off, and then hopefully y'all can join us next week, and you know, for another great program. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Awesome. Had a great time. Thank you.
What?
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
It was great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What was it that she said she put in the chat? I didn't get that.
Sure. It's that document that I held up. It'll be in color though. It's called Produce Pro. So hopefully that's posted in the chat here. Let's see. I'll take a look.
I didn't see it.
Let's see. I'm not sure I'm doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody got it and printed. That's good. So it's there somewhere. It might depend on your device how you can see it. I know I'm not seeing it in my chat here, but
Is it the flyer or is it a link?
let's see. I am seeing it in the chat here. I'll do this. I'll share. I'll see if I can share my. I'm not good at this stuff. I'll go to my files here, see if I can share that file.
I think we have it.
I don't know that I can pull that up. I'm sorry. It will be coming by email to anybody that registered for the.
Oh, okay.
Leaving it by
Okay.
email. Yes,
Okay. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everybody.
Friday.
How do I register? Okay, go.
Okay, I'm going to sign up. It's 10:59. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.